Live on Joy 99.7 FM, this is the Midday News. The news is also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. We're on Kaleo FM in Akachi. We're on ATL FM in Cape Coast, Lonlonyo FM in Hohoe, Gangai FM in Jirapa. We're live on Twitter Spaces. We're on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDPE pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon, government and the independent power producers agree on a $43 million payment monthly, but that will only cover electricity produced and consumed by the state.
We have negotiated with them to pay for energy consumed, which means we are currently not paying for the excess that we do not consume. And that is what amounts to the $43 million shared amongst them.
Also, as government awaits the release of the second IMF tranche of $600 million, there are 6 conditions to be met before the money will be released.
Tell you that Ghana is ready for the next review, the first review, and we are very confident about succeeding with the review.
And we'll get into the election headquarters in the next 24 hours. 10 candidates will justify their inclusion as the superdelegates in the NPP selects 5 candidates as tomorrow's conference across the country.
The Electoral Commission is entrusted with ensuring full compliance and implementation of the operational guidelines for the Special Electoral College elections.
We'll take a look at the Superdelegates Congress tomorrow. We'll also get to hear from a political scientist that's alleging machinations by bigwigs in the party to favor some aspirants.
In my opinion, I think that is what is going to drive the dynamics, of this race. Who can they hedge their bets on to allow them, to break the 8?
And much later, baby wrapped in polythene, abandoned and almost suffocating, saved by the miraculous intervention of an ambulance crew.
The baby was showing signs of difficulty in breathing, so they have to do some resuscitation and also cover the baby to prevent hypothermia. Then en route to Achimota Hospital for further management.
We have sports.
Sports Ministry commits to helping long jumper Deborah Aqua treat lingering Achilles injury.
And stay with me, I'll bring you the never-ending rants of the Roads Minister, Kwesi Amwakwata.
The contractor, all those working here must be arrested immediately.
We have that and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa. Apawu, this is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please do stay on for details. Thank you so much for choosing us. Let's dig in now. And government and the independent power producers have agreed on a $43 million payment monthly to address the financial crisis threatening the energy sector in the country. Well, this is, however, to cover only power generated and consumed by the state, as government insists it has no money to pay for the excess capacity. Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, tells my colleague George Riafe the IPPs have accepted this particular offer.
We've negotiated with them. We've agreed to some monthly payments, and every month about $43 million shared amongst them for energy supply, for energy consumed, let me say, because you know that they have excess capacity, and so we have negotiated with them to pay for energy consumed, which means we are currently not paying for the excess that we do not consume. And that is what amounts to the $43 million shared amongst them. And as I speak to you, we have paid them twice since we agreed with them. In July, we paid $43 million. ECG has just paid for August $43 million 2-3 days ago. And that is going to continue. We want to be current. Also because under our fund program, the IMF program, we have to be current with our payments. We are not supposed to rebuild arrears. And so that is satisfactory to the IPPs. And that was why they came out with a statement to call off their threat. And so we've done this in order to ensure that we have energy security so that we will not have supply interruption. Supply interruption is so bad for an economy. And when you are pursuing an aggressive growth strategy, energy is an important enabler.
Well, the bigger issue is the debt in the energy sector, which currently stands at $2.3 billion, half of it owed to independent power producers. Mohammed Amin Adam says there is an agreement to restructure the IPP's debt in September.
The IPP debt must be put in proper perspective. Okay, I have heard some numbers being shared by some groups, particularly the Chamber of IPPs, $2.3 billion. We don't have anything near that $2.3 billion.
What is the current, if that is not there?
So at the end of December 2022, we had about $1.7 billion as was estimated. But about 500 is fuel arrears. And so these arrears are not sitting in the name of IPPs. As of June this year, 2023, the IPP debt is around $1 billion US dollars. And of this, about 340 million is for unutilized capacity as a result of the contract signed by the previous NDC government, take or pay contracts, excess capacity, which we didn't need. The $1 billion arrears has about $340 million related to capacity not used. But because of the take or pay obligations, we have an obligation to pay that money. So this $1 billion is what we are seeking to restructure with the IPPs. And as I speak to you, we've done all the analysis. We have various options that we want to put on the table. But even before then, some of the IPPs have sent us proposals for us to consider. I believe in September we will start negotiating the restructuring proposals with the view to concluding our negotiation on the IPP areas or debts.
That's the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam. The full interview with George Riafe is available on our YouTube channels. We'll get to hear from the IPPs as well. But let's explore this with the former power minister who was instrumental in bringing in most of the independent power producers, Dr. Kwabena Donkor. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Midday News. So government has agreed with the IPPs. We only pay for only energy that we've consumed. That's a fair deal, isn't it? Because excess capacity will not be paid for. You agree?
Well, I don't agree. Obviously, I don't agree. If government is incapacitated by financial constraints, that's a different argument. But in terms of contractual obligations, for example, if you say today that you are only paying for energy used, that is fine. In running any power system, there is a redundancy, a reserve capacity of between 18 to 20%, depending on the jurisdiction. So who pays for that redundancy, that reserve margin? It is that reserve margin that enables the system to run smoothly. So when one plant goes off, and machines do go off, there is enough capacity to kick in. There's that redundancy. Are you saying that should not be paid for? Again, you're talking about excess capacity. I challenge anyone to produce the excess capacity that we have in 2023. We've looked at some of the Energy Commission outturns for 2022, and we'll tell you that in 2022-2023, the idea of excess capacity is a myth. If we had excess capacity, why will ECG renew or sign 2 new agreements with AXA Energy? AXA's 5-year contract has lapsed. ECG has renewed that contract. There's also a new contract signed for Kumasi, for AXA to put up a plant in Kumasi. If we have excess capacity, why would this government go ahead and sign 2 new agreements? So please, when it comes to the energy space, emotions, propaganda, and others wouldn't take us far as a country. Let's be rational.
But are you surprised to hear
capacity?
Okay, but are you surprised to hear Dr. Kwabena Donkor? Listening to Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, it appears that this is a deal that the IPPs have already agreed to. Are you surprised to hear that the IPPs agree to this in spite of the concerns that you're raising?
No, of course. If you are owing me $1 billion and you say you will pay so much every month, Every businessman will accept that deal. But that does not mean that is the full story. The redundancy, the reserve margin, who paid for it? That is not part of the energy used. As the minister rightly said, that about $500 million of what they claimed was payment for fuel. Do you run a plant when you have excess capacity? You don't run the plant to consume fuel. So let's sanitize the discussion. Let's look at the objective conditions. One of the major challenges we face in the energy sector is the deterioration of the cedi against the dollar. Remember, the receivables of ECG and other energy players are cedi denominated. Their payables are dollar denominated. And so when arising out of macroeconomic inefficiencies, the cedi deteriorates to the levels are deteriorated. It impacts on the ability of the appropriate SOEs to service the dollar obligation.
Now briefly,
argument.
Briefly, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, $43 million payment every month. That's the agreement. From where you sit, knowing the industry like you do, is it sustainable?
Well, they said they are telling us that it's sustainable. They are saying that it will only be sustainable if there is macroeconomic improvements and the cedi dollar exchange regime stays stable. If there is equilibrium in the exchange regime, that is fine. But if there is any further deterioration, it will place extra burden on ECG in particular.
Okay.
That is where we are.
We are grateful. That's Dr. Kwabena Donkor there, former power minister. We'll stay a little longer on the finance ministry because Ghana is set for a comprehensive review by the International Monetary Fund in September, and if successful, will lead to the release of another $600 million by the fund. Well, there are 6 conditions that must be met to unlock this particular fund, and Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, is hopeful of approval by the IMF after the assessment.
And some of them include zero Bank of Ghana financing of the central government, and as you know, that central government has stopped financing the government. The other one is the non-accumulation of external debt payment arrears, and that we are also very successful with that. And then also zero collateralized borrowing. And I cannot tell you that we are on course. We are meeting all those performance criteria.
You can catch the full interview, like you said, on myjoyonline.com, also on our YouTube channels. Let's get into the election headquarters now. And in a little over 24 hours, the presidential aspirants of 5 hopefuls in the NPP race will come to an end. A group constituted of super delegates will head to the polls to elect 5 out of the 10 aspirants for the main congress in November. 955 delegates are expected to cast their ballots in 17 voting centers across the country, with the EC entrusted with the responsibility to conduct the polls. Aspirants have only close of day to wrap up their campaigns, as the party bans any form of campaigning or congress tomorrow. But political governance expert with the CDD, Dr. John Osei Kwapon, says delegates should consider electing a candidate that has the competence of breaking the 8 for the NPP.
I'm sure the primary thing on their mind is breaking the 8. So if they look at all the 10 candidates, who do they think has the best chance of allowing them, to break the 8, will definitely be, I think, the thing that, or at least in my opinion, I think that is what is going to drive the dynamics, of this race. Who can they hedge their bets on to allow them, to break the 8? But again, intra-party democracy is such that you never know what other dynamics or thinking, may be going in the minds of delegates and what they might do to torpedo this race.
Well, political marketing expert Professor Kobi Mensah indicates that all the aspirants have gained attention from delegates and can spring a surprise.
Almost all of them are connected to the delegates. We have seen media reports and the various, kind of visits that the candidates have made, particularly, Alan Chamantin, Baumia, for example, and then, of course, you have Kennedy Japan. You've seen, Kwabena Japan also, going around with a lot of media, attention, a lot of reports on there. You've seen Boakye Jaku. So, pretty much almost all of them. Of course, the Agri Minister had been seen, connecting with, the delegates. So from the perspective of saying that personal selling, i.e. meeting the delegates, they have, pretty much, done that.
Well, allegations of machinations by some NPP bigwigs and as well as national executives to favor their preferred candidate still rife. We can hear from political scientist Dr. Amwakoba.
This is not the main event. This is the event before the event. But they are working very hard so that they can come up with the agenda and say, look at here. This man is very, very, very popular. They will see. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Because those who are voting for this period will not be the same ones who vote in the general election. Their outlook is very different. The so-called superdelegates. How many? It's the MP, CEOs. These are people on the higher level of the economic system in Ghana. So their outlook is different. So we should not use their outlook as a general outlook of the population. It isn't right. People need money. So the MPs need money. They've been given money, so they go along. This is what is going on.
So you're anticipating that Dr. Bawumia may probably win by a margin?
It's a done deal. He will win. But whether he will win by that large margin, I don't know.
Dr. Amwakoba is a political scientist. Let's touch base and let's get to some of our reporters on the ground. I'll start off in the Ashanti region because they have the largest delegates, 119 of them. Nanaya Ojima is monitoring the situations for us. Let's look at the mood ahead of this conference tomorrow.
Emefa, the delegates for this election are happy about the chances of their various candidates winning this particular election. Mind you, Ashanti region has the highest number of delegates. And also, Ashanti will be a hotbed because almost about 7 of these candidates for the election have strong ties with the Ashanti region. They are either from the region or had or lived here at their formative age. So it will be very, very, very hotly contested in the Ashanti region.
That's my colleague Nanaya Ojima. Thank you so much. Let's head to the northern region. Martina Bugri is monitoring events there for us. Martina, what can you report from the northern region?
From the northern region, all is set for the elections tomorrow, as we know. They chose the Tamale College of Education, and I'm told that they picked that venue because it's enclosed and offers them better security. We are told that 52 people were supposed to have been voting tomorrow, but one person died a few days to the election, and so 51. And one person also transferred his votes from Tamale to Accra, and so we have 50. But before I came on air, I spoke to the Director of Research and Elections, Dr. Fuseni Bawa Zakaria. He says that one person has also transferred his vote to Tamale here, but they are yet to confirm who the person is. Now he says that they have met with the police, they have fashioned out modalities on how the security would work, and 2 inner perimeters have been created. The first one allowing delegates inside, and the second one only strictly for delegates who would vote. So as we speak now, all is set, and all we are waiting for is tomorrow morning.
And we can't wait for that. This is your election headquarters, and the head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, joins us online. We will be on air, online, on all social media platforms. Evans, what are we to expect?
So we're starting tonight at 8 across our platforms on TV, on radio, and across our social media platforms. 8 to 10 p.m., focused exclusively on analysis. What we want to do is to help our audience have the full context before they join our coverage at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So by the time you come in tomorrow morning when the D-Day itself kickstarts, we want you to have a clearer picture, understanding of what is going to happen, who is likely to win, who is likely to be in the top 5, and whose presidential ambition will be terminated. So that's tonight, deep analysis. And then towards the end, we'll get the party executives in to lay the foundations as far as preparations are concerned for the next day. And then you join us at 7 a.m. across our networks tomorrow morning, D-Day. We are going to have exclusive coverage, the most extensive coverage you can get on any platform, the best political team. Our correspondents are across the country, all polling centers. And we have some very fascinating stellar guests for you who will join us with analysis and commentary as we're building. So we are doing this until we know the results and do some really in analysis post-elections tomorrow.
That's Evans Mensah, head of our political desk. You'll be joined by the other head this evening on election eve, Wednesday Namwa, Evans Mensah. You can't miss that on the Joy News channel at 8 p.m. and all our social media platforms. This is the Midday News, sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol, always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC and HDPE pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. We return from the break with sports, and then a baby wrapped in polythene abandoned and almost suffocating saved by the miraculous intervention of an ambulance crew.
The baby was showing signs of difficulty in breathing, so they have to do some resuscitation and also cover the baby to prevent hypothermia. Then en route to Achimota Hospital for further management.
And later cataloguing the never-ending rants of the Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoakwata.
The contractor, all those working here must be arrested immediately.
When budgets are tight and money difficult to come by, you want to be sure you get the best value for your money. These are not times to be spending money fixing expensive engine problems because of cheap fuel and lubricants. Drive to a Petrosol station today and buy your quality fuel and lubricants, and rest assured of fuel that lasts long and lubricants that prevent expensive engine problems. Hear the sound. Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantity.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn. You know buff, you know chop. Where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor gets water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank gets meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selenium. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe, so say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thank you so much for choosing Joy 99.7 FM Midday News. Time for sports. Daniel Cranting.
Hi, Emefa. Deputy Sports Minister Evans Bobi Opoku has told Joy Sports that his outfit will consider making funds available for long jumper Deborah Aqua to treat injuries she sustained while competing for Ghana last year. The national record holder sustained the injury during the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, where she won bronze. Aqua revealed earlier this week that a top Ghanaian official had pledged the nation's support in catering for the injury but failed to deliver.
I met her yesterday when I also heard that. In fact, I heard it the very day I arrived here to come and lend government support to them. It was very unfortunate comment. So I have met with her to find out from her who did that promise. But I asked her, is it a written commitment? Then she said no. For us at the ministry, officially that has not come to our notice. So we're very surprised. So going forward, we are going to see how we put our heads together. She will be supported.
You heard Deputy Sports Minister Evans Bobi Opoku speaking there, bringing an end to sports. But later at 2:15 p.m. we'll have game plan where we'll talk about the fallout from Ghana's participation at the ongoing World Athletics Championships, as well as Mohamed Kudus's impending transfer to West Ham United.
Game plan you can't miss. Now, call it a divine intervention and you would not be wrong. A team of ambulance personnel returning to their base after dealing with an emergency became the survivor of an savior of an almost 2-week-old baby girl who had been abandoned in the Achimota forest. The Greater Accra Regional Administrator of the Ambulance Service, Daniel Asari, tells Joy News his officers were alerted by 2 passerby who said they saw the baby wrapped in black polythene and suffocating. What happened next? Officer Daniel Asari shares the rest of the story.
On their way coming back to base, when they got to the Achimota forest area, then they were stopped by this Good Samaritan that they've seen a baby lying in the bush. The baby was wrapped in a black polythene. So they have to unwrap the baby. And also the baby was showing signs of difficulty in breathing. So they have to do some resuscitation and also cover the baby to prevent hypothermia. So they have to enroll to Achimota Hospital for further management. The Samaritans, one male, one female. So they have to come and join the ambulance and go to the hospital. Then the madam have to stay and do folder for the baby and reported the issue to the Achimota police station. We are supposed to also go and pick another case, so we have to leave. Then the following day, when we went there, the baby was doing good.
Well, CEO of the National Ambulance Service, Professor Ahmed Zakaria, notes this intervention was possible because the ambulance vehicles were fully equipped and well-resourced. He also urged stakeholders to continue to support their work.
So basically, because the ambulances are well-equipped, they have virtually every equipment that you need to be able to resuscitate any patient. So we just continue to crave the indulgence of the public that they should continue to pray for the crew and continue to give us all the necessary support so that at least once we have all the necessary resources, we should be able to continue to save lives.
Well, authorities at the Achimota Hospital have indicated to us that the baby is responding to treatment, and many thanks to the pastor who first noticed that baby wrapped in a polythene bag and stopped the ambulance service, for which reason the baby was saved. Now, before we go, we'll be talking about police in the Tema region. They've rescued 12 West African nations trafficked to engage in cyber fraud in Ghana. The victims were held in the trafficking syndicate's hideout in Saprebo, a suburb of Katamanso, and left malnourished. Join News' Carlos Caloni has the rest of the story.
Residents speculate the 12 individuals believed to have been trafficked from the West African sub-region are allegedly being held against their will by their Nigerian captors coerced into the world of cybercrime. Disturbing signals from within these walls have left neighbors perturbed, ultimately prompting them to raise an alarm that led to apprehension of all 14 occupants.
I stay behind the house that the incident is happening. I saw one guy just waving like that. But I thought the person was making fun of me because I never saw anybody like that. I hear their voices, but I don't know the people staying there. So the person was waving. Then I called my husband and see somebody's like, the person is making fun of me. Then my husband said, oh, let me check. Then he looked. Then he said, no, it's like the person is calling for help. Then my husband went for ladder. At first, he climbed the wall and he saw that the person said, the person was making sign language like that. And the hand is shaking. It's like the person is weak, very, very weak. He cannot talk. So when he was making the sign, then my husband went for ladder and took his phone that he want to take picture. But because of the net in the room, the net that they used to cover the burglar proof, there's no way he can do the video. So he got down and another brother came and the person started calling for help. Then he said, call. He was doing like this, call for. He was doing it. So when he was doing it, then my husband said, no, he's saying that we should call for police. So he wants to go. So they went in calling for police. When they were calling, then he went to Accra. Then when they came out, you see them, all of them, it's like they are malnourished.
That's Carlos Caloni's report. Now, he's a lawyer and holds one of the most important ministerial portfolios in the country. But Kwesi Mwakwata is never shy about expressing his anger when the road is deliberately destroyed. Yesterday, he took on some staff at the roads ministry, describing them as thieves and corrupt. But it wasn't the first time he's doing so. I bet you recall that. We catalog some of his rants for you.
The contractor, all those working here must be arrested immediately. It doesn't make sense. Look at this. And you destroy the road in your own country. Can anybody do this? It's madness. It's madness. What kind of indiscipline is this? Look at what you are doing to the road. Look at what you have done. And you at your age, I am giving you up to Friday. If you like, continue with this, and you will see what's going to happen here. There are a lot of corrupt people. There are a lot of thieves in my own ministry. You sack them, you employ new ones, and when they come, the new ones are even worse than those that you sack.
And I'm sure you recall double up as well. That's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM, brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, where Duraplus goes, water flows. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. Don't forget to join your election headquarters this evening at 8 p.m. for Election Eve. Game plan is at 1:15. You can't miss it.